Hi, I'm Chris Needels. Began jumping in 1963 or thereabouts. I was a cadet at West Point, and it was a club up there that I belonged to. We did compete in the collegiates in Orange in 1964, I think it was. Maybe it was 1963. And I became obsessed with skydiving, and I've been doing it off and on ever since. I served in the Army, of course, having gone to West Point, so I was in 101st Airborne Division, 82nd Airborne Division, Special Forces, Rangers, so jumping was always part of my life, and I really loved it. I was on the Golden Knights. I was the commander from 1970 to 1974. That was back in the days when we were just making the transition from round parachutes to square parachutes, so it was a really exciting era to be in, and we got to experiment with a lot of really strange and fun and painful parachutes at that time. But after the Golden Knights, I moved out west on a military assignment and jumped with a team called the North Stars, a 10-way team. That was my first exposure to real West Coast civilian skydiving, and that was a lot of fun. And then for a few years I was fairly inactive, only making an occasional demo jump. Later on in my life, as I became Special Forces qualified and Halo qualified, I was back jumping again, military, and then ultimately retired from the Army in early 90s and became the executive director of the U.S. Parachute Association, a job which I had for almost 14 years. And that was a wonderful time to be there. Saw the huge advancement in the sport to so many disciplines, basically what we have now. And ultimately I retired from USPA in 2008, and now I am committing my life to the National Skydiving Museum as a trustee volunteer. And I think it's a terrific cause. There's so many people showing up now for our Hall of Fame events. There's obviously a need for some of the early pioneers and some of the new pioneers to get together annually, so we're doing that now. And our hope is certainly that we will be able to build the museum within the next 3 or 4 years. We've got a wonderful piece of property in Fredericksburg, Virginia, right next to the U.S. Parachute Association. We've got about 4 acres of prime real estate right on Interstate 95, an intersection of US 1 just south of Washington, D.C. We think it's a winner. We'll have great attendance that will support the museum in perpetuity. Part of that is we hope we will be able to get a wind tunnel as part of this project so that we can have USPA, a wind tunnel, and the museum all in one place, and it will become a destination for skydivers from all over the world. Yes, well, first of all, the collegiates actually are the oldest national championships, even before what we have our U.S. nationals. So it's been around and has been continuous. It's been a great way to get young jumpers involved in skydiving. Mine was in Orange, but it's been in other places, and there is an annual trophy that's given out that's a great honor for a college to have. Really, back in that time, in the early 60s, all you had to do was really have a team and show up. There wasn't a lot of qualification because we're talking about all-round parachutes. Well, I guess by the end of my time in the collegiates, we were into para-commanders, so at least we could steer them. So it was the start of competition nationally for the United States. When I was, even before I was commissioned and became an officer, a cadet at West Point, that's when I first met the Golden Knights, because they would send people up, some of the greats like Coy McDonald, Dick Harmon, some of those champions would come up and coach our team. And I just was so overwhelmed by how talented they were. Now, just for an example, Coy McDonald, who was here this weekend, he had more dead centers than I had jumps. At that point, it was about 110. He had about 110 dead centers. And we're talking about with round parachutes here, so that was just awesome. So when I moved, my first assignment was at Fort Bragg with the 82nd Airborne Division, and I was always seeing the Golden Knights jumping. I said, I got to be part of that. And then just a few years later, I was selected, and it was terrific. I don't know anybody who makes their first skydive who isn't changed one way or the other. Either you're going to love it or you're not going to love it. And there's nothing in between. Nobody comes after their first jump and says, it's okay, I don't need to do it again. They either say, oh, that was awful, scary, or they say, I'd really like to do this some more. So that's how reactions you get from people.